Mastering message queuing. Organizations ignoring regulatory compliance in message queuing systems risk catastrophic consequences. When implementing message queuing systems, what procedures and safeguards should they put in place to ensure their organization's compliance with all applicable regulatory requirements? To ensure compliance with all applicable regulatory requirements when implementing message queuing systems, organizations should put in place the following procedures and safeguards. 1. Risk assessment. Conduct a thorough risk assessment to identify potential vulnerabilities and threats to the message queuing system. This assessment should consider the type of data being processed, the potential impact of a breach, and the likelihood of a security incident. 2. Compliance framework. Establish a compliance framework that outlines the organization's approach to regulatory compliance. This framework should identify the applicable regulations, the responsible teams, and the procedures for ensuring compliance. 3. Data classification. Classify the data being processed by the message queuing system based on its sensitivity and confidentiality requirements. This classification will determine the level of access control, encryption, and auditing required. 4. Access control. Implement role-based access control, RBAC, to ensure that only authorized personnel have access to the message queuing system. Access should be granted based on the principle of least privilege, where users are only granted the access necessary to perform their job functions. 5. Authentication and authorization. Implement strong authentication and authorization mechanisms to ensure that only authorized users can access the message queuing system. This should include multi-factor authentication, password policies, and account lockout policies. 6. Encryption. Implement encryption to protect data in transit and at rest. This should include encryption of messages, queues, and storage devices. Encryption should be implemented using industry-standard protocols and algorithms, such as TLS and ICE. 7. Auditing and logging. Implement auditing and logging mechanisms to track all access, modifications, and transactions performed on the message queuing system. Logs should be tamper-evident, and auditing should be performed in real time to detect potential security incidents. 8. Incident response. Establish an incident response plan to respond to security incidents, such as data breaches or unauthorized access. The plan should outline the procedures for containment, eradication, recovery, and post-incident activities. 9. Vendor management. Establish a vendor management program to ensure that third-party vendors comply with the organization's security and regulatory requirements. This should include due diligence, contractual requirements, and ongoing monitoring. 10. Training and awareness. Provide regular training and awareness programs for personnel to ensure they understand the organization's compliance requirements, security policies, and incident response procedures. 11. Compliance monitoring. Continuously monitor the message queuing system for compliance with regulatory requirements. This should include regular security assessments, vulnerability scanning, and penetration testing. 12. Regulatory reporting. Establish procedures for reporting compliance with regulatory requirements to the relevant authorities. This should include reporting on security incidents, data breaches, and compliance audits. 13. Business continuity planning. Establish a business continuity plan to ensure that the message queuing system can continue to operate in the event of a disaster or outage. This should include backup and recovery procedures, as well as disaster recovery plans. 14. Change management. Establish a change management process to ensure that changes to the message queuing system are properly assessed, tested, and implemented. This should include procedures for change requests, approvals, and deployment. 15. Third-party assurance. Establish procedures for obtaining third-party assurance on the organization's compliance with regulatory requirements. This should include audits, certifications, and compliance reports. By implementing these procedures and safeguards, organizations can ensure their message queuing systems comply with all applicable regulatory requirements and minimize the risk of non-compliance.